Duke basketball is very legit going into the 2024-2025 season. The rotation is going to be so much fun to watch. We learned a little bit about that in their exhibition against Lincoln and really excited to learn more in the games to come. This is Locked On Blue Devils.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is JJ Jackson. So great to have you here with us on Tuesday, October 22nd, 2024. Locked On Blue Devils is your one-stop shop where we discuss everything going on in the life of Duke athletics. How about Duke basketball? A massive 51-point victory in their exhibition game over Lincoln. We're going to continue to break that game down today with our good pal Kevin Connelly from Durham. We're talking X's and O's. We're talking about how deep of a rotation this is for this Duke basketball team. I think that's a big reason why Duke should be considered one of the title favorites going into this upcoming season, is how deep this team is. A lot to discuss on the program here today. If you have not done so already, please be sure to follow and subscribe to Locked On Blue Devils for free, wherever it is that you get your podcasts. Also, make sure that you check us out on YouTube. Like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and so much more. You can follow us on X at LO_Blue Devils, and I'm there as well at _JJ_Jackson_. So without further ado, bringing him on into today's program, he is Kevin Connelly again, the site expert from Durham, joining us here on today's program. And I talked about it on yesterday's show, Kevin. It's worth repeating again how amazing this is. We finally have actual results to talk about with Duke basketball against another team. Granted, they don't count because it's an exhibition game, but so good to see 5 Duke guys going up against an opponent, and we get to react to it today. I hope you're doing well.
I'm doing well, JJ. Thanks for having me again this week. And it's exciting. You kind of felt, I wouldn't say the jitters, but you woke up Saturday morning probably feeling really good. Duke football gets a big win Friday night against Florida State, and then you have Duke basketball to watch for a couple of hours on Saturday afternoon. So certainly was a lot of fun to see the guys get out there and everyone get into the action a little bit.
It's so much fun to see what the Duke team is going to be able to accomplish this upcoming season, fresh off the big win over Lincoln. And then we've got the game coming up on Sunday against Arizona State, another exhibition that'll be televised on the ACC network. So we'll get an opportunity to kind of react to that one. That, of course, against a more formidable opponent, one might think. You're talking about a Division II team versus a team in Arizona State that played at the Pac-12 this past year. And we'll see what Duke's able to do in that game coming up on Sunday. I think, like everybody, you start with the first game against Lincoln by observing what Cooper Flagg was able to do in his full debut against an opponent wearing that Duke uniform, doing just a little bit of everything, making highlight plays, blocking 4 shots, scoring 22 points. I mean, man, what a performance we saw from Flagg in his Duke debut.
Yeah, and he really went from it right from the jump. 13 and 6 assists in the first half, playing 13 minutes in those opening 20. And I think that was the most impressive part, that there was no hesitation. And JJ, we've talked about it a lot throughout this offseason on this podcast, is that he's a very confident young man. Like, he truly trusts and believes in the work that he's put in and the abilities that he has when he steps on the basketball court. And again, yes, the numbers may be inflated because they are playing a Division II team, but 13 points, and I think most importantly were the 6 assists that he had in that first half, contributing to scoring at all 3 levels of the floor. I think that was really impressive, and one of the things that stood out to me about his game.
Without a doubt. I mean, just being able to impact winning in so many different ways. And we talk about his competitiveness too. This is Lincoln, Kevin. I mean, this is not a big foe that we'll see in the ACC. This is certainly not that tough non-conference schedule that Duke has put together. It's not a tournament game. It's not Duke going to the Final Four or trying to win for a national championship. With all due respect to Lincoln, this is a team that Duke should have blown out, and yet you would not have known that at all based on how aggressive and competitive and just the want to win that we saw out of Duke's best player. He set the tone from the top, and everyone kind of followed suit.
Yeah, and you look at that first half, and I think a lot of people were really excited about the offense. Now, people may agree or disagree. I feel like the talking point a lot this offseason was the defense, just because of the size and the roster of players you were bringing in, how
Yeah,
everyone's just about 6'5" and everyone has
big
long
focus on the
wingspans.
defense.
Yeah, and everyone's able to defend. But I think that meant the offense just wasn't talked about as much, and maybe it was just understood that they were going to be really good on offense. But in that first half, scoring 56 points, 13 assists on 18 made field goals. And again, it is Lincoln. It's a Division II team, so you don't want to get too excited, but you have to love the way the offense flowed in this game, especially when we've seen the first 2 years of John Shire with this Duke offense, is that it feels like it really never fully clicked until much later in the season. So I'm really interested to see how this offense continues to develop once they face a lot stiffer competition, starting on Sunday against Arizona State. And then obviously they're going to be tested early and often once the regular season begins.
And even beyond that, again, players playing a whole lot for the Duke basketball team. We'll get into the rotation a lot throughout today's episode. It didn't feel like there was any fall off at all, which I was really impressed by. I think the minutes totals will increase for guys like Cooper Flagg. Obviously, when you get into more meaningful basketball games, Kon Knueppel played a team-high 25 minutes for Duke. No one else played more than that. I think, as we know, in years past, the rotation will shrink as we get further into the year. But what was impressive to see when you talk about the offensive performance, Kevin, there, is that it really didn't matter who was on the floor. Duke was still scoring. 40 minutes, 107 points. There was no drop-off really at all.
No, there was no drop-off. And I don't want to make big assumptions based on the rotation off of one game of an exhibition. But I do think there were obviously a couple of standouts that I'm sure we'll get into later on in this episode with the starting lineup and guys coming off the bench and guys not playing in the first half or getting very limited minutes in itself. So I do think there were a little bit of clues that John Shire provided as to who you're going to see a lot of perhaps early in the regular season.
All right, we'll talk more about the Duke basketball win over Lincoln and more rotation thoughts after we take our first break here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you've got to be enjoying the season so far. You can get a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. We saw two really exciting Monday Night Football games last night, the Buccaneers and the Ravens, and then the Chargers and Cardinals. So awesome. When you get in the hunch in the middle of the game, you could check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets, talking college football as well, and looking ahead to Duke's next opponent in SMU. The first time this season, we're seeing Duke as a big underdog. Right now, SMU favored by 11.5. You can get started on FanDuel with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel is a proud sponsor of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. All right, we're back here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. My name is JJ Jackson. His name is Kevin Conley, and he is the site expert from Ball Durham. We've got our box score posted here for those watching on YouTube as we take a look at some of those bigger numbers. I got to hear your thoughts about the debut of Kon Knueppel, Kevin. We already talked about Cooper Flagg, but Kon, man, stealing a lot of headlines from folks.
The hype was real, right? Once these guys got back on campus in the summer and all the workouts, everybody from the Brotherhood podcast to ACC Media Days to Duke Media Day, everybody raved about Kon Knueppel. And it showed up. 17 points, 6 of 11 from the field, 5 of 9 from 3, and then adding 5 rebounds and 3 assists as well. I mean, man, listen, again, you can have these big overreactions because I think that's what people do, especially when you go as many months as we have without Duke basketball, and we see these guys and we want to crown them right away. But just given the conversation around this kid all off season and in the summer, leading in the fall, and now leading up to the start of the season, man, I know he's climbing up draft boards, but if he could play like that, you could be looking at another top 10 pick.
He did everything. I mean, he was so automatic shooting from the outside. It was so fun to watch those 5 3-point makes that he had. And then he's got the poster dunk in his arsenal as well. That was incredible to see. I talk about the competitiveness from someone like Cooper Flagg. Jordan Mann pointed out on yesterday's show, Flagg was celebrating Kon's dunk more than Kon was himself because it was just such an amazing play that he was able to make, and he impacts winning in so many ways too, much like Cooper Flagg. For Kon Knueppel, though, it's that three-point shot, man, and the three-point shot set the tone. His outside shooting is going to make him a factor on this year's team. There's a reason he led this team in minutes played in Saturday's game against Lincoln. I think he's going to play a hell of a lot of minutes going throughout the regular season for Duke as well when we talk about Kon Knueppel.
No, I certainly think that too. Obviously you look at the two returners and Caleb Foster and Tyrese Proctor as those glue guys, being the captains and being the leaders. I think Kon could very well at the end of the season, we look up and he's the second best player on this team, and he's the real glue guy that needs to be out on the floor in critical moments. And again, I'm not just basing that off this game. I'm basing it on footage we've seen from practices and obviously word of mouth from other players and coaches that are there watching him play every day. It's impressive, and really looking forward to seeing him on Sunday night against Arizona State, see if he can keep this going.
Well, just based on this, is it safe to say he's a double-digit scorer for this team throughout the year? I think I'm ready to go there.
Yeah, I think I'm ready to go there too, especially if he's going to shoot the ball that well. And honestly, not just him, but the entire team shot the ball really well, 15 of 37 from deep, and that just opens up everything else on the floor. It opens up driving lanes. It gives a path for Cooper Flagg to put the ball on the deck and get to the lane and get to the basket. So I was very impressed with his shooting, and I think certainly you could see him averaging anywhere from 12 to 15 points per game.
Yeah, it was 17 in the game against Lincoln for Kon Knueppel. That was third on the team. Cooper Flagg led the way with 22 points. Tyrese Proctor had 19 points. Coming off the bench, the starting five in this game for Duke: Caleb Foster, Cooper Flagg, Malik Brown, Kon Knueppel, Sion James. A lot of people might have thought we'd see Tyrese Proctor in that starting lineup, that we would see Khaman Maluach in the starting lineup rather than James and Malik Brown. But those guys came off the bench, and Tyrese Proctor, let's start with him here, Kevin. 19 points for this Duke team, made 2 3-pointers, 7 of 8 free throw shooting, took care of the basketball and seemed pretty composed. I was really pleased with what we saw out of Tyrese Proctor.
Yeah, certainly pleased with what we saw from him. I still scratch my head about why he wasn't in the starting lineup. And Jon Scheyer, after the game, if you go back to the Duke basketball website and listen to his post-game press conference, didn't really give a concrete explanation as to why he didn't start. Said that they want to see it's a preseason game and you want to put lineups together and you want to see how guys mesh with each other.
Makes me think we're going to see a different lineup for this next game.
Yeah, and he was non-committal at that, but and again, you don't want to make assumptions. Was he late for a practice or a meeting or so on, et cetera? And this was his punishment that he didn't start, because he still certainly played a handful of minutes that he would typically get in an exhibition game like this. But just as now a junior and a captain, I was very surprised that he did not start. And Jon Scheyer's kind of lack of an explanation for him not starting, just saying they wanted to get other guys on the floor and it's an exhibition game, makes me think maybe something happened where he got a little bit of a benching that he wasn't allowed to start.
Well, there's been some chatter about the junior year leap that Wendell Moore Jr. had a couple of seasons ago that Jon Scheyer's even been asked about. Are there similarities between Wendell Moore Jr. going into his junior season and Tyrese Proctor doing the same thing? And just how aggressive he was on the offensive end of the floor in this Lincoln game, looking for his shot while also doing his best to set up his teammates. That's something that I would really love to see from Tyrese Proctor throughout the year.
Yeah, and one thing I just want to add on that, when you look at Tyrese Proctor and his career at Duke, 68 games played, 59 games started. And obviously last year we know he didn't start a couple of games. He came off the bench because he was dealing with injuries and Duke working him back into the rotation. So that's just the last point I wanted to make on him not starting and why I was so surprised at it, because really since day one,
more times than not, he's starting.
He's going to start.
Absolutely. All right. What about Khaman Maluach? The debut we saw out of him coming off the bench. Some people thought he would be a starter for the Duke basketball team. He's got 4 points, 1 of 4 from the floor. That one field goal was a dunk, of course. 2 of 2 from the free throw line. 18 minutes out there or 20 minutes, excuse me, out there on the floor, 11 rebounds, including 6 on the offensive end. That was epic to see how aggressive he was on the offensive glass.
Yeah, that was really good and kind of expected, right? Even though he's a freshman, he's 7'2" and playing against the Lincoln team that you're not really expecting much from in a size perspective. You want to see him go out there and really pull down those rebounds. Was impressed. He made both free throws he took. I know free throws aren't obviously the easiest thing for a player of his size. Would have liked to see Duke get him the ball a little bit more. Only took 3 2-pointers because he did take that 3-pointer, which want to see him start making. Obviously, we saw it in his time with South Sudan playing against Team USA, hit a 3 in that exhibition game. So he is a little bit comfortable taking that 3-pointer.
Yeah.
And we've seen videos of John Shire specifically telling Malik Brown, when you're open in the corner, take those 3-pointers. And he made a couple in practice. Obviously, you would imagine he's telling Khaman the same thing as well. If you're open, take that 3-pointer. And he took one here, unfortunately didn't go in. But don't think he was going to be a major focal point of the Duke offense this season. If he gets open shots, he'll take them. But I don't really envision this team running any post-ups for him down low. You want him to do all his dirty work down low and score off offensive rebounds.
We saw Khaman, his teammates calling him man, which I absolutely love. We saw him bank in that 3-pointer in the Countdown to Craziness blue-white game. So definitely able to shoot it from the outside. And I think that's a big look. And speaking of which, there were 71 shot attempts from the floor for the Duke basketball team. 37 of them were from 3-point range. Duke's ready to fire them up.
This is a team that proved in this game that they might be very good at shooting the basketball. Darren Harris and Isaiah Evans. They shoot the ball well in the second half. They combined 4 of 7. Isaiah Evans, a DNP in the first half. Darren Harris, I think, only got a minute or 2 in that opening stanza. So that's what I was kind of alluding at earlier in the show, talking about the rotation. And maybe you don't see those guys a lot early in the regular season, although everything you've heard from Darren Harris is how good of a shooter he has been in practice. And he showed it in this game in 13 minutes, getting 8 points and hitting a couple of 3-pointers. And Isaiah Evans has had that the mantra of being a superstar scorer going back to his high school days in the state of North Carolina, and shooting the ball really well. So, when everyone says, and you say it in football, when you have 2 quarterbacks, you have none.
Yeah.
And people say it's a good problem to have, but it's still a problem. I'm not envious of John Shire having to divvy up the minutes on this team because it looks like they have a lot of really good players.
Without a doubt. All right, we got to talk more about the Duke basketball team, what's to come, and we'll do that after we take our final break here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends at Roy. Hey, Duke football fans, it's time to recognize the Roy Player of the Week. So far this season, we've pulled over $20,000 to support players on Roy. Micro deposits lead to massive change. With the Roy app, you can direct your support to the athletes you love, ensuring that all funds go to the specific player you choose. Unlike collectives, you know exactly where your support is going, and you even receive exclusive content like personal videos and updates after the season. The best part, it's risk-free. If the athlete transfers or doesn't deliver the content, you get your money back. This week, I'm supporting Chandler Rivers. How about that pick 6 that he had in the Duke football win over Florida State? I just pitched in $100, and I'd love for you to join me. Even $10 makes a difference. Let's show Chandler Rivers and Duke football the love. Keep them connected to our school. Remember, pay today, celebrate tomorrow. Your support sets your team up for success. Plus, don't miss out on Roy's exciting giveaway. Win 2 tickets to a game in November. Just download Roy, create an account, and enter referral code Locked On, and you're entered. Already on Roy, any contribution to an athlete's campaign also gets you entered automatically. No purchase necessary, void where prohibited. Roy, support the players, change the game. Roy is a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. All right, we're moving forward. Kevin Connelly's here with us from Ball Durham. Take a moment, please, Kevin, and tell us about your website.
All over at Ball Durham, we got everything you could want on Duke athletics, Duke football, and Duke basketball. Both seasons now getting going. Duke football going to a bowl game. Duke basketball, obviously, Bobby Hurley coming to town on Sunday night with Arizona State. So come read us every day over at balldurham.com. We got a lot of fresh content every single day for you.
And all the recruiting news as well. I mean, we're still just fresh off the news of the Boozer twins committing to play basketball for Duke going into next season. They had an opportunity to play Sunday night on television against A.J. Devonsa, the number one player, and saw some pretty good plays from both Cameron and Caden Boozer. That was a fun game to watch, Kevin, and getting excited about seeing them even in the future days playing for Duke basketball.
Yeah, we told you they were going to want to wrap up their recruitment and their process before their high school season started. Now they're underway, and they play a loaded schedule, so I'm sure Duke fans are going to see them on national TV a lot more often this fall and winter.
Okay, so you mentioned a game coming up against Arizona State on Sunday. That's the next time we'll see the Duke basketball team play, and then they're going to have about a week off, and then they'll play their very first game of the season on Monday, November 4th against Maine to get the college basketball season started. With that being said, what are some of those things you're looking to see out of this Duke team as they get set for exhibition game number 2?
Well, I'm really looking to diving into this game because it is your second exhibition. So you kind of have the nerves out of your system and you're just going to go out there and play ball. And you look on the other side and you have a power conference team and a team that is hoping to make the NCAA tournament and is desperate to make the NCAA tournament under Bobby Hurley. So I'm expecting it to be a much more competitive game. Again, if Duke loses, it's still just an exhibition. The world's not ending, but the guys on the other side of the court are competitive, legitimate basketball, Division I basketball players. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how this Duke team fares against a team like Arizona State. And I think that's going to tell us a lot where this team stands going into the regular season, because as we know, November is brutal for the Blue Devils.
The event is called the Brotherhood Run, again, Sunday, October 27th at 7 p.m. Eastern on the ACC Network. Duke versus Arizona State. The Sun Devils, led by Blue Devil great Bobby Hurley, who's going to walk back inside Cameron Indoor Stadium. He's going to peek up. He's going to see 2 national championship banners that he was a part of in 91-92. He's going to look up at the rafters and also see his number 11 jersey retired. I mean, what a cool moment this is going to be for one of the Duke Blue Devil all-time greats.
Yeah, I would imagine Coach K would probably be in the house if he's around, just given that Bobby is coming back to town with his Sun Devils. So I think it's going to be a really fun weekend for the Duke basketball brotherhood when Bobby Hurley and Arizona State arrive this weekend in Durham.
I want to see how Duke can follow up from their performance against Lincoln. I mean, it was so good. Can we be kind of justified in these takeaways? Again, Arizona State is not going to be on the level of Kentucky, Kansas, even Auburn that Duke will see in the non-conference schedule so far, Arizona even. But they will be a quality team going into the season. So with that in mind, I'm really, okay, is the hype for real? Is this legit what we saw against a team like Lincoln? That's one of the bigger things that we'll be looking out for.
Yeah, it certainly is. And like you said, Arizona State's not on that level of Kansas or Kentucky or Auburn or Arizona, at least not right now, but they are substantially better than a team like Lincoln. So I think it's a good barometer for a preseason game. And let's also be honest, we don't really see this a lot from Duke. I think this is going to be the first time they are having one of these charity exhibitions televised and publicized. We typically see them against the Division II and Division III schools. So also looking forward to seeing like a real actual live Division I college basketball exhibition on TV with Duke and Arizona State.
Do you keep the rotation as deep? Do you kind of format it the same way if you're head coach Jon Scheyer?
I don't think you do until later in the game. I think you're going to learn a lot about Jon Scheyer's coaching style in the first half. Does he go a little bit deeper into his rotation to get everybody on the floor? And then if it's close at halftime or close in the second half, does he put his guys out there to try to win the game? That's all something that the coaches are going to go over during meetings, pregame and in-game when they're talking. So I think you are going to have a certain segment of the game where you get guys deeper into the rotation, like in Isaiah Evans and in Darren Harris, as 2 guys that were kind of on the outside of the rotation against Lincoln. I think there's going to be a part of the game where they get in, but it's also going to be a part of the game where both teams are going to try to win. So you're going to have your best 5 on the court probably late in the second half.
It's going to be an awesome weekend. You're on X at Kevin Conley 24. You've got your New York Yankees in the World Series on Friday and Saturday. Off day in the series on Sunday. So you're going to be locked in to the Duke basketball game. The schedule worked out great.
We're gonna be so locked in, and I am so done with my New York Jets. 2-5 now. I'm done. I'm over it. Even though they play in the afternoon, my Sunday is going to be totally locked on the ACC network and watching Duke and Arizona State.
We love it. All right, one more time before we get out of here. Tell us where we can get plugged in with the Ball Durham team and your coverage there.
Yep, balldurham.com every single day, and then follow us on X over at ball_Durham.
Awesome, Kevin. We'll do this again next week, all right?
Appreciate you, JJ. Thanks.
That's Kevin Connelly joining us here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. Go support his work. Really good stuff over there at Ball Durham. That's going to do it for today's show. As always, go Duke. I'll talk to you tomorrow. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.